Joe Rogan is doing it again, diving deep into mysteries that have been forgotten and now reigniting them for the public to explore, too. In this video, it's about Rogan's take on the mystery surrounding the jaw-dropping Grand Canyon. Some he believes are solved, some remain a mystery. From ancient civilizations that had dibs on the place to missing hikers, this might change your perception of one of the wonders in America. If there's one thing Joe Rogan loves, it's cracking open the kind of mystery that makes mainstream science a little uncomfortable. And few topics get his gears turning quite like the Grand Canyon, not just for its breathtaking beauty, but for the layers of untold history he believes might be buried beneath its surface. Over the years, Rogan has brought on guests like Hancock, Randall Carlson, and AJ Gentile to explore the tantalizing idea that the Grand Canyon may hold evidence of lost civilizations, ancient cataclysms, and even government cover-ups. It's not just about geology and erosion. It's about rewriting history, or at least opening the floor to the possibility that we've missed something big. One of the most memorable deep dives into this mystery came during episode number 1897 with Hancock and Randall Carlson, two of Rogan's most frequent and thought-provoking guests. Together, they paint a picture of a world much older and stranger than we've been taught in school. Hancock has long argued that a sophisticated civilization may have existed in prehistory, one that was wiped out by a cataclysm, possibly a comet impact, and has since been largely forgotten. And Carlson is the guy who brings the receipts, pointing to geological formations and ancient architecture that suggest people of the past were capable of things we can barely comprehend today. Rogan sits between them, fascinated, pulling on every thread. Why don't more people know about this? Why isn't this mainstream? But it's not just ancient cataclysms and lost cultures. They also talk about secrecy, particularly when it comes to the Grand Canyon. One of the most intriguing stories Rogan likes to bring up is the 1909 tale of Kincaid, who reportedly discovered a mysterious cave system filled with Egyptian-style artifacts somewhere in the Grand Canyon. According to the legend, the Smithsonian came in, shut it down, and never spoke of it again. Sounds crazy, right? But on another episode with AJ Gentile, Rogan gives the theory some airtime. Not necessarily because he buys into every detail, but because he thinks it's worth asking, what if? What if there's more to this story? And what if certain narratives are suppressed not out of malice, but to preserve a version of history that feels safer, more orderly? In episode 872, an earlier conversation with the same duo, Rogan helps walk through the broader context, like how myths from cultures around the world echo stories of floods, advanced knowledge, and celestial disasters. Could the Grand Canyon be more than just a geological marvel? Could it be one of the last clues to a forgotten chapter of human civilization? The Grand Canyon is one of those jaw-dropping sceneries that makes you stop and wonder, how in the world did this happen? Stretching over 270 miles long, up to 18 miles wide, and more than a mile deep in places, it's not just a big hole in the ground, it's a geological mystery that sparked debate for over a century. At first glance, it seems simple enough. Water carved it, right? But the deeper you dig, pun intended, the more complicated and controversial the story gets. Most of us grew up hearing that the mighty Colorado River patiently carved the Grand Canyon over millions of years. According to this traditional theory, the river started slicing into the Colorado Plateau around 6 million years ago. Slowly but surely, erosion chipped away layer after layer of rock, forming the iconic cliffs, mesas, and gorges we see today. This idea makes a lot of sense. Rivers do carve canyons after all. And the Colorado River is no slouch when it comes to moving water and sediment. Combine that with rain, snow melt, and gravity, and you've got a powerful force wearing down the landscape over eons. Simple, right? Well, maybe not. Here's where things get spicy. Some geologists argue that erosion alone couldn't have pulled this off, not without a little help from below. The Grand Canyon lies in a region known as the Colorado Plateau, which has been rising for tens of millions of years due to tectonic forces. That uplift made the river flow faster and cut deeper, speeding up the canyon-making process. Even more intriguing, some scientists think faulting, cracks, and shifts in Earth's crust created weaknesses in the rock that guided how the canyon was carved. It's like Mother Nature gave the river a few shortcuts to follow. This team suggests the landscape was already being shaped by tectonic action long before the Colorado River showed up in its current form. So, which is it, water or earthquakes? Turns out it might be a bit of both. Now, here's where the real drama begins. For decades, geologists believed the Grand Canyon formed within the last 6 million years. Then, a 2012 study threw a geological wrench into the mix. It suggested that parts of the canyon might be as old as 70 million years. That's back when dinosaurs were still stomping around. This idea comes from analyzing ancient rocks and minerals deep in the canyon walls using a method called thermochronology. The results seem to show that at least some parts of the canyon were already carved way back in the Cretaceous period. But not everyone's convinced. Critics argue that these older parts might be canyon cousins, smaller, disconnected gorges that predated the modern Grand Canyon, but didn't form part of the continuous chasm we see today. Others believe the data was misinterpreted or that erosion patterns don't support such an old age. The truth, we still don't know for sure. And honestly, that's kind of awesome. The Grand Canyon isn't just a beautiful natural wonder. It's a reminder that science is always evolving. New tools, new data, and fresh ideas constantly reshape what we think we know. It's possible the Grand Canyon story is a mix of all these theories. An ancient landscape partially carved out long ago, reshaped by tectonic uplift, then deepened and widened by the relentless work of the Colorado River. The Grand Canyon is like a really old and finished novel. Parts of the plot are clear, but there are still missing chapters. And while geologists continue to argue over the timeline and the main characters, river versus tectonics, the rest of us get to stand on the rim, peer into the vastness, and wonder how Earth pulled off such an epic masterpiece. Not bad for a pile of rocks. What many people don't realize is that underneath all that beauty lies a mysterious underground world. Hidden in the cliffs and valleys are over 1,000 known caves and caverns. That number alone is impressive. But here's the real kicker. Only a small fraction of those caves have actually been explored. The rest remain a mystery. Tucked away in remote areas, some of them completely inaccessible or closed off for safety or environmental reasons. For explorers, adventurers, and curious minds, the idea of these hidden caves sparks the imagination. What's in them? Could there be ancient artifacts, underground rivers, or evidence of past civilizations? Over the years, these questions have inspired both real research and wild legends. One of the most famous stories comes from a 1909 article published in a newspaper which claimed that Egyptian artifacts had been found inside a cave in the Grand Canyon. According to the story, a man named G. E. King discovered a massive underground chamber filled with statues, hieroglyphics, and even mummies. The report described the discovery as potentially proof that ancient Egyptians had traveled to North America thousands of years ago.